talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Let's see where we're going here. Greetings and salutations, everyone. We are here. We are live here at Universal Broadcasting Network. Now I can hear myself. And you have tuned into none other than the Dr. Judy WTF show. I am your host, Walt Lusk, and we are, of course, broadcasting here in the heart of Hollywood. We've got a great show today. We are going to pick up where we left off last week on panel 7 of the Paradigm Shift. And we've got a couple of other things we're going to chat about. And we are going to shrink a tune that's one of my favorites. Last week, Judy did an absolute stellar interpretation, in my view, of a song from The Great Gatsby. And we're going to continue in that theme with my favorite song from The Great Gatsby. So it's by special request. So stay tuned for shrinking that tune. So welcome. And we're going to dive right in. And if you want to call in, please feel free. Our number is area code 323-843-2826. That's 323-843-2826. We'd love to have you get on the couch with Dr. Judy, and I may jump on too.
And we love call-ins. This is a call-in show, so please do interrupt us. As Walt says, we're fully interruptible.
Definitely we are fully interruptible, because you know what we think about with call-ins? That's what we're here for. We're here for you.
So I just want to say that sometimes I feel like I'm just in here alone with Walt talking to Walt. And I'm now realizing that we have quite an audience. We've got over 30,000 listeners. And I know that there are people right now who are tuned in. And it's just wonderful for us to know that we're delivering a message, because ultimately the message is healing human disconnect, healing the hole in the soul, which many of you know starts at cause level, starts with the mother-infant disconnect and the father-infant disconnect, and the whole area of childhood, which is the attachment phase of our life. And if that doesn't go so well, symptoms occur. And today we're going to talk about...
Well, as it used to say in my daughter's bibs, spit happens.
Spit happens?
Yeah, spit happens.
Well, it happens a lot in my office.
No one will imagine. You've got a lot of issues for those tissues.
Very
or a lot
much
of tissues
so.
for those issues.
Very much so. Don't steal my idea. I want to brand the Dr. Judy's tissues for the issues
That's
brand.
not
Okay,
a challenge.
I'm putting it out there. I'm taking that one.
Okay, you do that.
So it's a long journey to healing, and panel 7 is really the paradigm shift where all the work has been done, and now people are clear-eyed, meaning they're not perceptually bent, meaning that they're not perceptually blinded by all the misperceptions of the past. So in the therapy, I spent a lot of time cleaning up the mess of core beliefs that are negative, cleaning up what I call the infiltrated past, cleaning up even the multi-generational transmission of all the downloaded injuries from mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, and so on and so forth.
Multi-generational.
Very much so.
And the thing is, Judy has a system. It's called the Mind Map. And if you actually go to www.drjudywtf.com, you can find the Mind Map. It's actually got 9 panels, 3 panels for each phase. Mm-hmm. And we are now starting the final phase of our journey, which is the beginning is the paradigm shift. And also, it's surprising that you can also pull our shows at iTunes as well as Stitcher, and we haven't even made any mention until just now, we will, and we are also on YouTube. For those of you who don't know, if you listen to us at 8 o'clock on Thursdays, we stream it live, so you can see Dr. Judy and me live and in person. But we actually put a lot of those shows on YouTube, and a lot of you have actually, unbeknownst to us, been watching YouTube, and there's a couple of shows that are getting a lot more play than others. Of issues that we did, and in retrospect, it's kind of obvious. And so we appreciate for that. And if you want to go to Dr. Judy WTF on YouTube, you'll be able to see us.
And I want to mention that we are getting some response in terms of comments to the shows, and I want to address some of the comments that have been made. One was actually a letter that I received by somebody who felt that our saying it's not fun to be a borderline, she took pain in that statement. And so I just want to clarify that some of the things that we say on our show are not really happy or fun, are not, and they're certainly not meant to hurt. And if you feel hurt by them, I really do we invite you to call in, write to us so that we can self-correct and self-reflect and self-correct.
Yes.
So I just want to say something about BPD. Okay, BPD is a very, very painful
Borderline personality disorder.
It's a very painful disorder. And the injury results in a lot of acting out and a lot of projection. And when the person is in this state of mind, in this state of being, what they do to get rid of the pain is projected on others so that they can feel it too. And it is not fun. And so when
I say fun, I really mean it tongue in cheek, is what I mean.
Thank
we
you.
We are informers and educators, and these hot topics are no fun. Pardon the pun, but it's serious stuff. But we also are entertainers. So because if we don't entertain, chances are you're going to go somewhere else anyway. So we draw a fine line. We walk a fine line between it all.
And another acknowledgement I wanted to make today. I had an extremely big privilege of treating one of our favorite fans.
Yeah.
And I'm actually honored to say that I'm treating his ex-wife of many years.
Which is quite a testimonial in and of
quite
itself.
Incredible.
Yes.
I'm just so touched and honored to be doing this because this gentleman came in and brought his ex-wife in so that she can heal. And there's been obviously a lot of damage at the causal level, which is the first 3 years of life. And then when two people get together who are unhealed, what happens is they clash and bang and they play out their pathologies all over each other, and then they cause chaos, and then they go into defense mechanisms, and then they play out their clash and bang on each other, projecting, and it gets ugly. And
it's no picnic.
Not a picnic. And if you put up the panels, the Be the Cause mind map. Is it up there, Walt?
Yeah, the mind map's up. For those of you that are watching
thanks.
live, if you are listening to this, you can go to www.drjudywtf.com. And if you want to comment something about the show, you have a topic that you'd love us to dive into, we're always trying to look for topics, or you want a song for us to shrink, you can go to info@drjudywtf as well, drjudywtf.com, and send us stuff, and we respond. And we react to anything and everything that's sent. We really do.
So I just want to review for those of you who are listening for the first time. This is a from, through, to model. So if you look at the top row, this is how the pathology gets laid down. So if you look at panel 1, you can see the dark and the light. And this is the darkness and the light of our past, namely the first few years of life. And the darkness is the disconnect. It's kind of like when there's a wound, the skin gets disconnected. When there's a psychological wound, the emotions get disconnected. And when there's a disconnect, then there's a reaction to the wound, which is represented by panel 2. And then an encoding in the wound, which goes right into the core belief of the person. And when the wound is really, really gapingly big, people conclude something like, I'm worthless, I'm not good enough.
I'm not pretty. Nobody likes
stupid,
me.
And whatever lands in that panel is a result of the causal period of time. And so part of my job is to identify the wound, the reactions to the wound, and then take a look at the encoding, because the encoding is now a belief system that was basically infiltrated or soaked in. It infiltrated into the soul of the person's being, into the psyche. It's kind of like a psychological virus, if you will.
Absolutely.
And if you don't decode it, if you don't tear it apart and bring down this faulty structure, then it goes on a psychological viral ride, so to speak, and it ends up in panel 4, 5, 6, which is the through part of the work, which is we have to dismantle this whole thing, and then we've got to look at the defense mechanisms around it, much like we defend when there's an infection. We defend by building up antibodies, and sometimes those antibodies are good, and other times they become so rampant that they cause gangrene. Okay, so
And you have to remember the wound is usually caused when we're very, very young. We're infants, as we like to say that childhood is a hostage situation, meaning that we really don't have any control over our environment, and therefore we're really pretty much, I'll use the word victim of our environment. But just because that's the case, it doesn't mean that you have to finish in that mode. And so what Dr. Judy does is he basically finds out the cause, the problem, the wound, and then through a very intense therapy that doesn't really last that long. She's very efficient and very effective in your time and usage. And then we end up where we are today in the paradigm shift, and true healing occurs.
And let me just say something about hostage situation. It's not all bad. There's light in a hostage situation too. So please be aware that every single thing that we say has a yin and a yang.
Yin and yang.
We need to be in a hostage situation because we need the discipline of our parents. We need the instruction. We need the structure of our parents.
Right.
So if we didn't have that as a, hey, guess what? You can't get out of the situation, so learn, grow. Yet there's this wild card factor because you don't know if the parent is going to be a benevolent parent or harmful parent, and usually a mixture of both. So that's what I do for a living, is I dismantle core beliefs and break open defense mechanisms and help people instead of implode, which is nasty,
Or even explode.
Or explode. The implode is nasty because it results in depression and sometimes on the way end of the spectrum, suicide, which we've talked about. And then the explode can be domestic violence all the way to shooting up a school system and going postal on the world. And sometimes we see the explode implode, which is the homicide suicide, as an attempt to rid the negative feelings.
Which we touched on a couple weeks ago, and for those who remember, we talked about the unfortunate best example of that was the incidents that happened at University of California, Santa Barbara.
Right.
He exploded and then, of course, imploded.
Right, and that was the end game of that one. So
Yeah,
if you look at
so.
panel number 6, that's the end game.
Yep,
Explode,
sure
implode, but there's another game, which is unload and express.
And that's what we want you to do on this show.
Yes.
Is do not explode or implode, unload. And you can call us, and we're at 323-843-2826. And we'd love to have you get on the couch and hang out with us for a while. It's fun.
So actually, after everything's been unloaded, what happens is a cleansing process, and that the old becomes resolved and wiped clean and completed, and then there is a blank slate state, which is panel number 7. So it's not exactly a blank slate because there's been a lot of work, and the person who is interconnecting with self and other is now a healthier ism, a healthier individualism. So instead of an unhealthy defense mechanism, now they're a more developed individualism, and they have more light to give to themselves, to another in a relationship, and to the world at large. So if you look at panel number 7, you're going to see a bunch of circles that are interconnecting. And so I want to talk a little bit about interconnection, because there are different levels of interconnection, and there are types of interconnections that are not that healthy, and they're not that interconnecting.
And last week, I read a little bit of Judy's upcoming book on panel 7 regarding the paradigm shift. So if you want to go back to that show and pull it on Stitcher, iTunes, or the UBN website, you can hear a little verbiage of what I read from her book, which is frankly and fastly being edited, and should be out in the next 45 days.
And we will let you know when it is available.
You'll be the second to know.
Yeah, we will be. And so interconnection is, actually I use it as my logo. I'm so in love with the concept because it represents synergy. It represents the 1 + 1 is 3 phenomenon, meaning that when two people get together and it's an important connection and there's a lot that they have to offer each other, and there's a lot of creativity and a lot of intentionality to make the world a better place, then that energy can be shared with not only each other but the world. And some people call it the soulmate kind of connection. And a soulmate doesn't only necessarily have to be a lover. It could be two people getting together over a project, and there's just so much light that comes out of that union that
There are a lot of
there's a
synergy
paradigm
occurs.
shift. There's a
Absolutely is.
synergy.
Right.
And so that's what I mean by the 1 + 1 is 3. And I'll get back into that. And I also want to get into the opposite, which is 1 + 1 is -2. And
Really? Okay.
let's do the math.
This should be interesting.
This is going to be for the math students who are going to go, hey, Dr. Judy, 1 + 1 is not 3.
Well, come on. I remember a song by Three Dog Night. It was 1 is the loneliest number.
Well, okay. And then there was another 1 + 1 and 1. I want to play that game tonight. Remember that song?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That was by Hall & Oates.
I love that song. So
Hall & Oates.
it's back to what we were talking about last time. I think we touched on it. The concept of vampiring. The concept of codependency is when one individual has a lot of light to give, and another individual who is maybe less developed or less strong or less of in any area latches on to the person with a lot of light and starts leeching and bleeding that person and growing on their energy. And of course, it takes two to tango, right? So the person who is allowing for this has poor boundaries, right, Walt? Remember the permeable, non-permeable, semi-permeable boundaries. So,
yes, I do.
So there's got to be an allowing for this process to happen. So the strong one might allow for this bleeding out process to happen and might find themselves feeling weak after the process.
And along those lines of vampiring, which I think personally is an issue we should expand a little bit here, there's an article that basically, are you a giver or are you a taker? And what's interesting is a giver needs a taker and for it to work, and of course a taker needs a giver, which I thought was kind of interesting. And you've really got the epitome of a yin and a yang.
Right.
To do that with. So one person may be more of a giver and the other person may be a taker. Doesn't mean that it doesn't change or shift. I mean, a taker is impossible to deal with sometimes. The best marriages are a combination of give and take. So here are the questions. Givers in relationships are always looking for ways to help, support, give, and give benefits to their partners. Takers, on the other hand, always take stuff. Help, support, kind acts, recognition, etc. They take because it's in their nature to do so. And you put the relationship with a taker together, it's yin and yang. But givers need a taker to give, so they tend to attract them in their life. And takers need a giver in the relationship, so they tend to attract that as well. So the givers give and the takers take, and there you go. So the question is, if you're a giver, when you do give, do you do it without expectation of any type of return? Do you manage your expectations more honestly? Do you learn to handle taking better? Because if you're a real giver, sometimes if somebody gives you a gift or gives you a compliment, you need to acknowledge that you have received a gift or been given a compliment.
And I learned a lot about this concept from Kabbalah 101. And here's what I have to share about that. I thought that class was extremely influential in my life. And the word Kabbalah comes from the Zohar, comes from a body of Jewish mysticism, and the word Kabbalah actually means to receive, and it actually means to receive the light or source energy, God, source, the light, whatever you want to call it, universal energy. And so in order to be a giver, you have to be a receiver. You have to take in. The question is, what are you going to take in? There's a way of taking in darkness, and then that's going to short circuit you, and there's not going to be a lot of light left. So in an ideal world, because our parents, many of our parents, and on some level all of our parents are not perfect, they're not perfect, right?
No, they're not.
There's something,
and I've said there's no such thing as a perfect family either.
that
Everybody
I
tries
know
to hide
of.
that crazy uncle. You know what? Everybody's got a crazy uncle.
Right, in the closet.
Somewhere.
Right?
Might be a refrigerator.
Right, maybe. I think some of them are, actually, Walt. So in order to be a giver, you have to be a taker. And what I learned from the Kabbalah is that in order to be that giver, you have to take. And if our parents are not good sources of receiving, then we can really trump that card by going direct connect to source energy. And I'm talking to everybody here, whether you're spiritual, religious, it doesn't matter. Your source energy could be nutrition, it could be exercise, it could be simply universal truths, it could be your respect for universal laws. However, we have to acknowledge that we're not always smarter than a fifth grader, that there's somebody in sixth grade, so to speak, okay? And so when there's somebody in sixth grade, it's important, because imagine if we had nobody to learn from, if everybody was dumber or less than, and we all have talents in different areas. And please, let's acknowledge that you may be able to be a giver in the field of nutrition and not be such a giver in the area of spirituality, or you may be a great giver spiritually, but you may not be the best at exercise or nutrition. And it's mind, body, soul. It's nice to balance it, but we're not all going to be all balanced out. And so basically we need each other. How about that? And we're designed to need each other. We're designed to connect with each other. We've been wired to connect. We've been wired for love.
Absolutely, we have.
So when we're depleted of love, because we didn't sponge in the right ingredients from cause, meaning, I'm going to repeat myself from previous shows, if we didn't get the consistency, eye contact, skin contact, breastfeeding, unconditional love from the first few years of life, then we're kind of running at a deficit, kind of running on empty. We have what I call whatever level hole in the soul, and then that induces us to want to fill it with drugs, sex, and rock and roll, meaning that we need to fill it with something that's going to quell the pain. So when we source light, when we source the source, then we're running on kind of more of a pure octane, rather than trying to bleed somebody else, trying to vampire somebody else's energy, and then we have more to give. So from a Kabbalistic point, when we receive for the purpose of sharing, that's when the highest order of giving occurs, because you're not just receiving for the purpose of being a narcissist and taking for yourself, but you have the sense that there's plenty left over, I'm fed, you're okay, I'm okay, and now because you're okay and I'm okay, the world is more okay. And that, I think, is synergy. That is part of it. So, Walt, did you have anything that you wanted to pull out article-wise that
just
that
to finish,
about?
I had one thing. I just lost it. I mean, you kind of addressed it from taking versus giving.
Yes.
I mean, if you're a taker, you got to learn to give, and for that, that's pretty. I mean, we did a show on narcissism, so you can go back and listen to that one. That was one of our more popular shows. I mean, you need to learn to verbally appreciate of the giving. Try giving once in a while. Give your partner wants and needs to be able to give. So try little acts of thoughtfulness in terms of giving. Any tiny little step can go miles and miles and miles.
Random acts of
kindness. Absolutely.
And appreciation, which is one of the ways to ensure that we stay filled and that we get more. Doesn't it say in the Bible that when we appreciate, we get more, and when we don't appreciate what little we have, gets taken away?
Well, first off, it's very important for those of you that believe, have an attitude of gratitude. If you are just gracious and have an attitude and appreciative for what you have, I mean, it doesn't really matter what it is, you'll get more of that. And if you aren't appreciative, you don't like it, then you're not going to get any of that or much of that. What I learned in church is you have to give to get. It's not get to give, because if you're a taker, all you're doing is taking, and you don't granted you've got more to give, but you don't give, you keep. So you give to get. Like if you want more patience, you learn to be patient in situations, right? You want more love, you give love.
And I just want to elaborate on that a little bit more. It doesn't mean that it has to be exactly in the same category, and it doesn't have to be 50-50 all the time, because relationships shift. And I can't think of a more unpleasant feeling than getting a massage and then feeling obligated to give the person a massage right after I got the massage, because then I don't really feel like I've been given to. Then I feel like, ugh,
Well,
now I have
it's
to
an obligation.
now I have to give. But
It's an obligation.
there's an amazing feeling when I can take in something and then feel it and just be with it, and then allow that to move me to be kinder and more nurturing and more giving to that person. And I think that's more authentic than just like, oh, you did something for me, let me do something quickly for you. And that doesn't really feel very authentic to me. So just understand that this give and take thing, it has its own rhythm. It has its own energy. It doesn't always look even, Steven.
It's not tit for tat. It's
no,
you don't keep score.
No, and then there's also, I can get more elaborate. Just to touch on it, there's female giving, which maybe is in a more nourishing, nurturing. And I don't mean that you can't be female giving if you're a male, because we have different aspects to us. If I'm a female, I have also my male energy, and I also have my female energy, and so there's female versions of who I am, and out there are female feminine versions of who you are as a male. And so as we give, we could tap into either source of that energy, the nurturing give, or we could be more assertive and actually give an object. We did touch upon this during another episode. Remember, Walt, we talked about the 5 love languages?
We did. There's for those of you, years ago, a book was called The 5 Love Languages, and if I remember them, there's acts of service, quality time, physical touch, gifts, and words of affirmation. And the point
You've got
is,
a great memory. I'm impressed.
So the point is that you need to figure out, and there's a test, you can Google it, it's back up, it was down for a while, the 5 love language quiz. Basically, it's a little quiz, and when you figure out what your love language is, your primary and your secondary, then you, and more importantly, you figure out your counterpart's love language. Maybe yours is physical touch, and you don't feel like you're hugged enough.
Yeah.
And maybe theirs is quality time. Okay, well, there's a little bit of a disconnect there, but when you figure that out, okay, I'll give her a lot of time, or I'll give him a lot of time, and and then they figure out yours is physical touch. Then there's greater a chance for you to have more unity and be on the same page if you understand where you're both coming from.
Yeah,
and it's called the 5 love languages, and it's now for adults and children and whatnot, because we're all different.
And great communication is being responsible to communicate what your love language is to the people you love, and vice versa, so that you can hit the spot with them.
Absolutely.
Because it's no use giving people gifts if they don't really care about receiving gifts. It's not any gift to them if you're giving them something that you want to give them, but it's not something that they want to receive.
No,
So
maybe the gift is the gift of time,
right,
versus the gift of something that you've thought of and give them, however insignificant or large that gift may be. So that to me, there's a lot of disconnect there. Talking about vampiring, there are steps that stop difficult people from zapping your energy and your happiness. Right? We can give them that privilege of zapping us, but if we're aware of it, then we don't. I mean, the first step, is to make a list of the people who define their difficult or zapping it. I mean, who are these people that are vampiring us? Okay. Then the second is what? Well, you know what? The rest of the article I lost, but you got to be careful of who's taking your energy.
Who you associate with.
And it all boils down to association, right? And sometimes it might be challenging. You might have to systematically withdraw from that person, because it might be a famly member.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that can happen a lot.
Sometimes you just
Absolutely.
have to
it's just like,
get them off your mind map, right? So I don't want to play anymore.
This is not
You're
healthy.
done.
Yeah, this is not healthy.
I want to talk about different types of synergy and interconnection, and one of the things that I want to talk about is mirroring, and the importance of that, and the importance of being heard, and what a healthy conversation and a satisfying conversation sounds like. I was just talking about that with a patient of mine, that when you have a conversation with somebody and you don't feel like you've been ingested, taken in, digested, considered and thought about, and then manifested, meaning that the person has actually heard you and added to what you have to say, then there's a feeling that you've been dissed. Remember that word? Oh my God, I've been dissed. So a dissing conversation would
Yes.
be, the best example is somebody that I used to know. I'd say something like, oh, I had a dream the other night. And the person would say, oh, that's nice. That's nice. And I remember completely having this conversation with the person, something like, we need to talk about this because I feel like I'm throwing the ball at you and you're not catching it. And then I feel like it's being dropped and now I have to pick it up and throw it back. And I feel like I'm doing all the verbal work here. And I just feel totally disconnected from. And I think it was a really big eye-opener for this individual because he didn't know that he was doing that. So sometimes you have to make people aware that they're doing that.
Well, I thought basically if he wasn't in your dream, then it wasn't a dream, it was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare. Well, the relationship did not have legs, and specifically it didn't because every conversation, or most conversations, not every conversation is going to be like this, but most conversations just kind of dead-ended. And depending on your taste for depth, and I have a great big appetite for spiritual depth,
yes, you
psychological
do, Dr. Judy.
depth, blah, blah.
But
Not
again,
everybody can have that taste bud.
No.
But
the relationship in that instance, there wasn't synergy.
There wasn't synergy.
No. I mean, you were trying to make something that wasn't there. And
have you ever had a conversation with somebody and you got the feeling that they couldn't wait until you were finished with what you were saying so that they could say what they wanted to say and had nothing to do with what you were saying? How does that make you feel?
Well, they're obviously not listening. They're more interested in getting their point across. I met a friend I hadn't seen for a while yesterday. Mm-hmm. And it was just that way. They were trying to tell me something and I was trying to tell them something, and it was like he didn't want to hear what I had to say. I mean, it didn't matter what I wanted to say. His was more important.
Of course.
And I just went, now I know why I don't hang around this guy much anymore.
Right. And if you look at it from the panel 7 point of view, there's no synergy, there's no light, there's no ingest, digest, manifest. It's dead end. The light goes out just like that. Disconnect. Healing human disconnect. Example of disconnect. Well,
but the thing is, talk about disconnect. I mean, that's really what our show's about and what Judy's book's coming out is. But the challenge here is more specifically in the Western world. I think that we're becoming more segregated and disconnected. Judy likes to call them isms. In the Western world, we have spent decades drawing lines and boxes around interconnected phenomena. We've chunked the world into pieces rather than explored the webby nature. Think of the lines and boundaries that exist, organizational charts, job descriptions, nation states, ethnic identities. These are rigid boundaries. That means to control people and events. And interconnectedness disappears, right? We're liberal, we're conservative, we're Republican, we're Democrat, we're a Mexican American, we're an Asian American, we're an Irish American. Well, why don't we just be an American?
And why don't we just join the human race?
And just
How
join the
about
human
that for a
race,
concept?
right? So there's been, I believe, here in the United States, that there's more division along a lot of lines more than ever. I mean, we're not unified. We're divided.
We are divided, and that doesn't mean that we can't grow within our ism. That doesn't mean that somebody can't grow within their Christianity-ism or their Judaism or whatever ism they choose as a vehicle or a pathway to growth. It does, however, mean that we need to understand that apart from being an ism, we are a human being-ism, right? We're human beings, and this is the human race, and if we're going to grow within the ism, we can't cancel out other people's isms, and we cannot tower over them and narce them out, so to speak.
Well, what's interesting in talking about synergy, what a lot of it entails and involves is trust.
Yes.
Right? Give and take. Because there's an article here that really elaborated that as well, is that trust, our natural state of being and our birthright. We were born into a trusting relationship with our mothers. Distrust is a learned behavior reaction that sadly has run rampant in our civilization and has collapsed all too many of our dearest relations. Trust is the foundation of all enduring relationships. So for synergy to happen and for interconnection to occur, the foundation is trust. And fear is the polar opposite.
And I want to say that connecting the dots back to cause in the first 3 years of life, the first developmental stage of a human being is trust versus mistrust. So if the caregiver is not consistent, is not emotionally available, is violating the baby in any way and really disconnecting and causing the wound, then that bubble of trust is broken. And so how can we then think that the people outside of the family unit, the mother-infant unit or the mother-father-infant unit is safe? There's no way. So now we project distrust into the world, right? And so our micro problems, our micro pathology, so to speak, grows and grows into these tumorescent isms of isolationism, of paranoidism, and then we project this in a big way in the world, and what do we have? We've got clash, bang, fallout, clash of the isms, no interconnection,
None.
and we're really seeding the way of the annihilation of the human race, and it's born out of the area of mother-infant, father-infant family disconnect. So it goes from micro to macro.
To macro, absolutely.
Correct. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about pathways to healing, because we all want to heal. And of course, my mind map is my pathway to help my patients heal. And there are many pathways to healing. There's many ways to connect to the light, and we know of some of them, and some of you listeners may be intricately engaged in prayer and meditation. The power of now, Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of now, being in the moment as a pathway. And there's so many pathways. I find creativity to be a pathway to the light. And of course, once you're filled with light, then your brain is clear to create. And I think more powerfully when you can co-create with the energy that is going to be opening more light to other human beings. That's a powerful co-creation.
Yes, it is. Absolutely, it is.
So there are many pathways to healing and pathways to connecting to the light, and there's no right way. I have a patient who chants, and that's her pathway. I have patients who meditate. I have patients who run and get the runner's high, and that's their pathway. And there are other people who paint or draw. One of my pathways is just connecting to my dogs. I love my dogs. I find that they're true sources of unconditional love, and they definitely offer me a lot of healing and connection. So we just have to become aware that we're human beings. We need the touch. We need the light. And that we can resource all these pathways. And
if there's a pathway that you find has been really, really helpful that you do or use, call us, let us know what it is. The number is 323-843-2826. And, of course, you're listening to Dr. Judy WTF here on the UBN network, and you can check us out on the web at drjudywtf.com.
Thank you.
There's a lot of pathways, but one interesting thing, since it's a couples world, I thought maybe we might want to touch on 10 habits of happy couples.
Okay.
And this could be the context here, of course, is a husband and a wife, but or partners in that regard, but it can be expanded to others, just to connect, right? Because it's a pretty important connection, I believe. And the
most important choice a human being can make is who they choose as their partner.
Absolutely. And the first one is go to bed at the same time. Okay, remember the beginning of your relationship when you couldn't wait to get to bed with each other to make love. Well, you go to bed at the same time, even if one partner wakes up later to do things, the partner sleeps. When their skins touch and it causes each of them to tingle, then they have more connection. And some people feel that it's not too kosher to have a TV in the room because, you're staring at the television as opposed to, interacting with each other. The second is cultivate common interests. You don't minimize the importance of activities you can do together, but, cultivate interests of your own, which will make you more interesting and your mate present more appealing if you're too dependent, right? So it's the old opposites attract. Third is walk hand in hand or side by side, right? If you're comfortable in doing that, then you're comfortable as a couple. 4, and they make a big deal about this one in the article, is make trust and forgiveness your default mode. Disagreement or agreement, if they can't be resolved, happy couples default to trusting and forgiving rather than distrusting and begrudging. Right? I mean, the old thing in the Bible says, don't let the sun go down and, be mad and whatnot. But, maybe it's better just not let the sun come up because it's going to ruin your next day. But you make trust and forgiveness your default mode, right? The fifth is focus more on what your partner does right than what they may do wrong, right? We've all done that. We're nitpicking and pick on it. But you know what? If we're positive and focus on what's good, accentuate the positive, it's a good thing. So we're talking about 10 habits couples make that happy couples do that can't be overstated. Number 6, hug each other as soon as you can after work, because that will encapsulate your spirit against the anonymity of the world. It's more. We've talked about the wired for love, the couple bubble, right?
Love that concept.
It's us versus the rest of the world. I like the word oasis.
I think it's beautiful, and the concept is that the world sometimes could be a difficult place, and so when you create the safety between, then there's more of a feeling of protection and safety,
absolutely.
Insulation, right. And
You're each other's rock.
Oasis.
An oasis. And then along those lines, number 7, say I love you and have a good day each morning. What if they left and you didn't say I love you, and they ended up in the hospital, right? I mean, it's kind of a morbid thought, but we all need to be loved. We all need to be touched. We all want appreciation. We all want connection, and that kind of reaffirms the relationship. I think by some patience and tolerance with each other's partners. As they set out to do battle every day, attacking whatever challenges they may face. Number 8, and the other end is say good night every night, regardless how you feel. Again, you might not be happy with your mate or your partner, but you know what? If you just say good night, that regardless of how upset you are with them, you still want to be in the relationship. It says that your partner has a bigger part than any single upsetting event. Right?
I love those principles. I think they're priceless. I want to add a couple of things, which is to share rituals. If you're Jewish, light Shabbat candles together. If you're Catholic, go to church on Sunday.
Go to Mass.
If you feel that you're not religious or spiritual, then have a ritual together where maybe you take a walk every morning with each other, some kind of ritual, and also learn together. That's really important because you want to be on the same page mentally.
Well, that's growing together too.
Grow together, learn together, share the same material so that you can have interesting discussions about a book or a poem or a philosophy. And
one is again, so we've said I love you in the morning, we've said good night at night, and during the day do what's they call a weather check. Call your partner at home, at work, or send them a little text. Hey, I was thinking of you. How you doing? How's it going? And this is a great way to adjust expectations so you're more in sync when you connect after work. If your partner's having a bad day, it might be not unreasonable to expect him or her to be enthusiastic about something good that happened to you. Or maybe if you knew they had a bad day, maybe you want to go buy them a flower. It doesn't have to be a bouquet. It can just go buy a flower. Or go down the street and pick one from the neighbor's yard. And it's easy to forget to check up on your partner, right? So again, we're staying connected in the morning, at night, and during the day. I mean, it's not a long thing. Just you pop a text out. Sometimes I'll type a text and go, I want to make sure I send a text out. I'll type it and then send it later. That way I know I've created it and I'll take the time later to do it. So, and lastly is be proud to see with your partner. Happy couples are pleased to be seen together and often as some kind of affectionate contact, hand in hand, hand on shoulder, hand in knee. They are not showing off, but rather they're saying that we belong together.
Mm-hmm.
So those are 10 things that happy couples do. And if you want a copy of this, you can just email us at info@drjudywtf.com, and I'll be happy to send you a copy of it.
Thank you, Walt.
Sure. So next time, I think we're running a little time here, but there I love this one. We're going to do this really quick. 10 reasons to give more hugs. Okay. I'm going to finish. I'm going to finish at the end. This article believes that we need 4 hugs a day for survival, 8 hugs a day for maintenance, and 12 hugs a day for growth.
Wow.
Okay. Hugging induces.
Are you running on empty or running?
I think we all are. There are some reasons to squeeze, pun intended, that many of us, loving hugs a day has a physical side. First is it creates oxytocin. It's a powerful hormone that fortifies and bonds with loved ones. Mm-hmm. Second, it builds stronger bonds, nurtures human relationships, cultivated trust, increases confidence, and frankly just makes us happier people. Third, hugging lowers stress, right? Lowers the cortisol found in the body. It's like a drug-free antioxidant. Fourth, hugging lowers blood pressure, right? It's a great way to lower your blood pressure. Fifth, hugging is reciprocal good deed, right? You want to hug somebody back, right? You don't want to, you give them a 2-armed hug, and they're kind of giving you a half-armed hug with a phone in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other, right?
A little pat on the back.
Little pat on the back.
Right.
Hugging obviously feels incredible. Number 7, it can turn a bad mood upside down, right? You're just having an absolute horrible day, a little hug, maybe a little longer than a hug, just might, calm you down and put things in a little more perspective. 8, it reconnects the mind with the body. Has the power to promote us towards better posture, deeper breathing, and a more relaxed state. Hugging makes us better huggers. And lastly, it cultivates patience. Connectiveness are fostered when people take the time to appreciate and acknowledge one another. A hug is one of the easiest ways to show appreciation and acknowledgement of the other person.
No wonder I love to come here. I get all kinds of hugs.
So have you hugged somebody today? So that's pretty much our show on Paradigm Shift. If you have any questions, queries, or comments, you can write us at info@drjudywtf.com. We're gonna shift gears here and shrink that tune. This song is called "Heart's a Mess." It was one of the songs that was in the movie The Great Gatsby. It's by Gotye, Gotye, it's a great song. So we're gonna shrink it and play it. Pick apart the pieces of your heart and let me peer inside. Let me in where your thoughts have been. Let me occupy your mind as you do mine.
So one of my patients said to me, "Dr. Judy, you ruined me," meaning that he never sees the world the same way anymore, because now he's seeing things through a mind map perspective. So after you get a sense of how to see things through this perspective and the interpretation of this, then you may not see the song the same way. So, okay, pick apart the pieces of your heart. So that's the brokenness of the wound of childhood through the mind map perspective. And let me peer inside, meaning, are you going to be empathic or are you going to be judgmental? Please let me in. Well, maybe you will be empathic, where only your thoughts have been. Let me occupy your mind. So there's a kind of a sense of, I want synergy with you. I want to be there with you as I want you to be in my mind as well. The desire to connect.
Well, I think that's a great line. Let me occupy your mind as you do mine, right? I'm thinking about you. I'm mad at you, whatever reason. You're in my head.
You're important to me.
And you're important to me, and I want you to be as important to me as I feel you are to me.
Right.
Your heart's a mess. You won't admit it. It makes no sense, but I'm desperate to connect. You can't live like this.
So 2 things come to mind that, okay, we're all wounded, the heart's a mess, and they don't understand why because, again, they're not going to shrink why the wounds are and the reactions and all that. But yet there's a sense of wanting to connect as a healing source. Connection heals. So
Connection does heal.
Maybe they want to rescue the person. Maybe they just want to offer empathy, but there's a sense that, look, you're bleeding. Nobody can live like this. So what can I do to help so that you don't hurt so much?
You have lost too much love to fear, doubt, and distrust. It's not enough. You just threw away the key to your heart.
So you've lost too much love, meaning somebody maybe has vampired you, so you've bled out. To fear, doubt, and distrust, this is the broken trust it caused, where the person doesn't have that blanket of security, and there hasn't been enough of it, and as a result, there's been a kind of like a betrayal, and the keys to the heart have been thrown away because somebody's betrayed the heart. So now they don't want in anymore.
I think the walls are going up.
Yeah.
You don't get burned because nothing gets through. It makes it easier on you, but that much more difficult for me to make you see.
So here's the closed off membrane. The person's been burned. So what do? They wall in, they shut down. Now they're in the double dungeon. They're prisoners of their own self, but it makes it really, really difficult for the other person to interconnect because there's a wall up, and the writer is saying, easier on you because you're going to be protected, but
right.
A lot harder for me because there's no way that I can get in now. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks for nothing.
Right.
Love isn't fair. There you are, my love. Love isn't safe. You won't get hurt if you stay chaste, so you can wait, but I don't want to waste my love.
Well, love isn't fair. It's a hostage situation, right? Okay? And always is, because once you have your heart on the line, it has a little bit of an addictive quality. And even if the person is not that great for you, it's really hard to let go, isn't it? So it's not that safe.
No, it's not, and it's not that easy either. Yeah. So next week we are going to go in panel 8, which is what, Dr. Judy? In the mind map.
It is reconnection and recoding. So after we take apart the old codes that don't work and the old core beliefs that take us down into the rabbit hole, into the darkness, we've got to recode ourselves with the light and with new belief systems and healthy psychological DNA, so to speak, and we've got to rebuild. Kind of like we've got to rebuild the dysfunctional that we've now taken down and start from ground zero and build back up again.
And as I say,
with the healthy elements.
With definitely healthy
right.
elements, because we've pulled the bad out and now
right.
we've got to put some good in.
Correct.
And the point is, it's not how you start that matters, it's how you finish. And in other words,
well said.
A lot of hope. And we're really in the hope business, right? Help. Judy's helping other people escape all the trials and tribulations of maybe their past.
Get out of jail of the mental hell that you're in. That's sometimes how I see the work that I do.
Okay.
Letting people out.
And you can reach Dr. Judy or myself at info@DrJudyWTF. Thanks for listening. You can pull us on Stitcher or iTunes. This is Walt Lusk and Dr. Judy Rosenberg. And now we are going to play the song, Your Heart's a Mess. God bless everyone.
God bless.
Let's see if I can put the button right.
Pick apart the pieces of your heart. Let me peer inside. Let me in where only your thoughts have been. Let me occupy your mind as you do mine. distrust. You just threw away the key to your heart. Don't get burned. It makes it easier. That much more difficult for me to make you see. Love ain't fair, so there you are, my one. Your heart's a mess. You won't admit to it. It makes no sense, but I'm desperate to connect. And you can't live like this. Your heart's a mess. You won't admit to it. Makes no sense, but I'm desperate to connect. You can't live like this. Love ain't safe, you won't get hurt. You stay chaste so you can wait. But I don't wanna waste my life.